Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, host of the Business Insurance Zone, and on today's show we're interviewing Rick Yeatts, president of Yeatts Performance Group. Rick's a personal performance coach and a strategic sales closer. On today's topic, we're talking about driving your performance, and we're going to be offering Rick's coaching manual and 5 video vignettes absolutely free at brokersalliance.com/personal life coach. Rick's going to introduce us to the anatomy of the driven producer. He'll help us identify 3 basic driving forces behind success. We'll highlight the value-driven culture of sales and marketing, and we'll teach you how to leverage yourself to get the most potential. And remember, you can watch this show and all our shows on YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and the on-demand section of brokersalliance.com. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Steve Savant, the whiz of the biz, and with me today is our performance coach, Rick Yeatts. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Steve. I'm good to be with you.
Glad to have you here. We're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial professionals from Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And of course, you can write me on my email address at thebiz@brokersalliance.com and our toll-free number 1-800-290-7226, extension 147 for any of your quotes or questions regarding life insurance, annuities, DI, LTC, and of course, group pension plans. And remember, one of the biggest parts about this is I don't give tax or legal advice, so always seek counsel with your CPA or attorney. And if you're FINRA licensed, always check in with your compliance officer before moving forward with anything we talk about on this show. Well, we have you back again, Coach. I got to say, for the people who saw the first episode, if you haven't catched the Monday show, you should go back and watch this show. We talked about the whole issue of the power of performance. Today, we're going to be talking about a little bit different because, when you're talking about driving your performance, now we're talking about getting behind the wheel.
Right.
Okay,
We're
and this is
talking
going to be
about
real.
the engine. Yep.
We're talking about the engine.
Yep.
Now, I know this is true for me, and I hate to say this, I'm probably somewhat typical of our producers. Back in the day, I had the privilege of starting with the venerable New England. I was Rookie of the Year of the United States. I set huge selling records, all those things, but I was driven always by crisis. I didn't do it because it was my practice. I didn't do it because it was my business. I did it because I had all these little rugrats running around, these little children of mine, right? And I was always living check to check, and I had to really sell to get out there. I was driven by crisis, and I don't want to do that.
Well, let me say this to you. In life, in general, crisis is usually not an option. Every crisis I've ever had, I never got to vote on. And so crisis is a rule, is a reality, right? We don't get to, but you just hit the nail on the head. For performance, as it relates to performance, we're now dealing with the engine of the car. Think about this. When you're thinking about performance or a race car, there's the outside, and there's the mechanism, but then there's something that drives it. So what we're going to talk about today is the 3 major driving forces behind the behavior of people who perform well and how they differ. And it's just really important to know really what your DNA is to this. What is your driving force? How does your engine work? What does it run off of, if you will? It's very powerful. I need to know that when I'm coaching people because it helps me to know how to tailor-make something for them or coach a team for that matter, a sales team. I need to know how they're driven. By the way, most sales teams and organizations that I work for in the world, especially sales organizations, are crisis-driven. Almost all of them. I think it's American business.
It's a trap.
It is a trap. Wow. And it's a reality. And part of that we create. We create a month-to-month things. Sales cycles usually start over every month. So every month we create a whole new crisis. Now you got to start again, or whatever the truth is. We've learned to use crisis in some good ways, but to be crisis-driven has got some negative downsides to it. So let's talk about what are the 3 major driving forces of people today? And I use this to help illustrate a very broad view of what you need to look at in order to get better at what you do. The first one, as we've mentioned, is crisis. Crisis-driven people are people who do what they have to do because they have to. That's the very nature of crisis. Crisis people just have to. They got to do it. And for example, a crisis-driven person, I'll never forget one day I had a conversation with my son, who is in the early stages of college, and I said, he said, man, I've got a paper due Monday. And I said, well, you've got plenty of time to get on it. This was early in the week. He said, no, Dad, I won't do that till Saturday. I said, why do you do this Saturday? I said, why would you start something this big on Saturday? He said, well, because, I've learned that if I wait till the last minute and lock up in a room, I perform better under crises.
So wow.
So he actually designed, and by the way, I think I made half the student population out there today.
I was going to say that's my college career in a nutshell.
The truth is, but he's convinced himself at a very early age that he functions better under crisis. So crisis-driven people aren't driven just by crisis because they feel like that it just crept up on them. Many do it by design. Many sales directors motivate their managed teams by crisis. It's a cultural thing. I can walk into a crisis-driven culture and I can tell you some things about it. The upside is very often they do get where they're going and it's awesome. Everybody applauds. The downside of it is the human carnage of talent that gets wasted on the floor and the burnout and the frustration and the up and down life cycle. It is an absolute crash because the challenge it is that when it takes a crisis to get you going and you create that rhythm or pattern in your life, then guess what? It takes a crisis always to get you going. And apart from a crisis, great opportunities are often lost and wasted. Because without a crisis, we just don't hit that level of performance that we're capable of.
I'm just thinking, I'm thinking of a couple of our big producers, and these are guys that are making $250,000 a year living check to check.
Right.
And so their total motivation is the bank balance is almost zero.
Right.
I mean, and it's so hard to believe that people that live in a gated community that have all the toys, right, and everything else, they're living this way, and the only way they can respond is financial crisis.
Right.
And these are the same people that are telling other people how to run their finances.
Exactly. And the challenge is they've gone from crisis to crisis to crisis. Now, one day that wears you out. One day that mountain becomes too big. One day the energy isn't there. And one day this gets up. There's a downside to this. But there is a potentially good side of understanding that there are times when you have to operate under crisis. I mentioned to you when my son became ill, I needed to sell for a few years. I thought it was going to be a few months. It was a long disability. Guess what? In that crisis, I had to channel my energy a different way, and I was able to meet that opportunity. So again, challenges in life are not optional. They come. But if you're going to be driven by crisis, you need to know that there's some huge downturns to that whole reality. And I'll spread that out and sort of massage that thought in just a minute. But let's go to number 2, the second thing, so that we get a big picture and then we'll work on them specifically. The second way that people are often driven is causes. Causes. I use all the C words here today because it helps us to remember. Causes.
I like that, yeah.
Cause-driven people are people who are driven by special impetus or special needs. Where the crisis-driven people are have to, cause-driven people are need to. Now, for example, for my sales team, I might put a cause here this month. We have to meet these numbers, but if we do, guess what? We're going to give away a free car. Well, I need a new car, so I'm going to hit my objectives this month to get a new car. The challenge is, and that's, by the way, that's pretty awesome too. And life has got causes. There are times whenever we need to rally, we need to do a little extra, we need to take one for the team. We need to extend ourselves and perform in a way that lets us reach and achieve this goal or direction. And this is often where goal-oriented, vision-oriented people excel. They're very, very vision and goal-oriented. And it works. Again, the challenge with this is, and the downside of being just cause-oriented, is that it's very much like a roller coaster. When you got a cause and a special incentive out there, it sort of works for you. But when that incentive and special cause goes away, the roller coaster happens. Many people say to me, Rick, how come I can sell so good this month and the next month I'm down? Then I'm up again and then I'm down. And you'll see the effect of this, and the real downside of this is it's a bit of a roller coaster. Inconsistency plagues the cause-driven person.
Part of that is cause.
It is.
Wow.
And the causes aren't big enough. The self-leverage doesn't work every time. You can't sell yourself on the idea that this cause is big enough. And there are people, by the way, that live from crises to crises to crises and cause to cause to cause. But remember, the trademark of a cause person is they need to. And you'll see it in their language. Crisis-driven people walk around and say, I got to do this. I have to do this. I have to do that. Cause-driven people walk around and say their language is, I really need to do this. I should be doing that. I got to get this done. I got this deadline. I got this opportunity. There's a real specific incentive this month, so I want to reach that. But here's the third one. And this is what I call optimum for. This is what you look for. And that's the character-driven culture, or the character-driven force for performance. What is the difference between crisis, cause, and character? A character-driven impetus, people who are character-driven do what they do because they want to. They just simply want to. They don't have to. They don't just need to. They just want to do it. They do what they do because that's who they are. They want to perform at their best all the time. They give every shot 100%. They really, they don't always hit home runs, Steve. I'm not saying that. This is not, la la land. But the fact of the matter is they almost never strike out either. And the reason they do that is because it's based in the character. And their character has a predetermined set of objectives and behaviors of work and consistency that regardless of whether there's a crisis, regardless of whether there's a goal cause out there, there is this unique finish line. They just do it because every day they get up and they're going to maximize their potential. They're going to take advantage of the fact that they have an opportunity and they're going to go for it. And I have people working in arenas right now where I train regularly. These guys are there. And then I have the crisis and the cause-driven people, and you have to manage and direct them differently. But what you don't want to do is set up a crisis-driven culture and expect it to produce character, because it doesn't happen.
Now, have you ever seen people that actually converted from crisis and or cause-driven to character-driven?
Yes, I have. That's what good coaching comes in, by the way. Thank you for that. That's what we hope to do. If I could do anything I would want to do, I'd want to turn everybody into a cause-driven performer. Why? Because I think crises come. I think causes are very important in times, but I think character above all things. Now, let me give you just an overview how this works out, if you don't mind. Just a couple of things I'll share with you that helps you see this maybe in more of a spread out spreadsheet kind of way. A crisis-driven person is the have-to-driven person. Life is good when nothing bad's going on. You ask a crisis-driven person, how's it going today? Great. Why? It's not raining. The car didn't break down. The kids were happy this morning, and I got a kiss on the way out the door. Guess what? He's happy. Why? Because nothing bad. Okay? The cause-driven person is a little bit different. They're driven by not have to, need to, and life is good when something good is happening. I'm reaching my goals. I'm accomplishing this. I'm going to make my quota this month. I'm going to get a special incentive. Guess what? I'm going to sell what I have to sell this month, and I'm going to make my boss happy. Life is good when something good's happening. But the character-driven person, life is good because of who they are.
So it's not what we do, it's who we are.
That's right.
When we come back, we're going to see if we can have. I feel like I'm in a religious experience here. I'm having a little meeting here.
Wow. Okay. We'll take up an offering.
Yeah, we should. In fact, actually, that's why Coach is on the show today. When we come back, we're going to talk more about this time, vision versus values.
True.
I'm Steve Savant. You're listening to the Business Insurance Zone. When we come back, we're going to ask Coach Rick, how do I get vision and how do I put value on top of it?
Love it.
Hey, Steve Savant here. I just want to take a little time between our show with Coach Rick and talk a little bit about our SWAT team, Selling with a Team. It's our Special Ops Marketing Unit at Brokers Alliance. It's comprised of countermeasures, our competition desk, our life insurance financial evaluation where we do life audits, and the big one that I like, our MASH unit, our medical assessment standard health units that break down the preferred categories, the standard categories, and the substandard categories in 3 different major units. Those units operate under a cool thing that I've called triage underwriting, where we actually give you the skill sets in the field to be able to make an assessment, and a new thing we call book and quoting called premium tolerance test. We'll measure the case before we even go to informals to make sure that this is a case worth pursuing, because we don't want to go through all this and not be able to close the case. So think about it, MASH unit with the premium tolerance test before you sign up for a case to go ahead and submit it as an informal. Well, I'm back with Coach Rick Yeatts, president of Yeatts Performance Group. Coach Rick, we're talking today about things that are so great about causes, crisis, and now character. I mean, everybody wants to be, people want to have character, but I think a lot of us are characters.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know the difference. But today we're going to be talking, or this segment, we're going to talk about vision versus values. And before we do that, remember, Coach Rick is giving away, all you have to do is hop out to the URL. It's www.brokersalliance.com/personal life coach. out there is the manual, and we're talking with a lot of these things are in the manual.
Right.
Rick is giving you the manual, the coaching manual. He's also giving us 5 video vignettes. All you have to do is go out there to that www.brokersalliance.com/personal life coach. Download the 5 videos, the manuscript. Coach wants to have you see. He wants you to see this and participate in what we're talking about on the show.
Right, because if you the character-driven performance lifestyle is one who has really a predetermined set of values and plans that they carry out regardless of a crisis, regardless of a cause. And one of the things the Success Manual does is it really helps you organize your success plan. It first of all helps you get a success plan. When I ask people sometimes, what's your plan? They just think, it depends on what day you're asking. It depends on the circumstances. It depends on the weather. It depends on how I feel, which is really more often more accurate. But the truth of the matter is, character-driven people, again, they have a plan. They work their plan. And again, when they get off the course today, they don't stay off of it tomorrow. They revert back to it. Why? Because it's a predetermined set of behaviors that they've decided. They recognize this is what brings success, and this is what I'm going to do.
How can I put that into my personality so anytime I go through, whether I think it's cause or crisis or whatever, I'm always defaulting to character?
Well, crises are, by the way, very, very disruptive to lifestyle, right? I mean, crisis happens. I walked into a sales arena the other day, and they had a big crisis. They had a huge crisis, and for a day and a half, the whole team was absolved in a crisis. If it's character-driven, they will go right back to revert back to their character-driven process and get on to what they're doing. Let me just massage this a little bit more. Here's couple of the great characteristics of these distinctions. Number one, a crisis-driven culture is often fear-based, very fear-based. A cause-driven culture is very self-based. I can do this. I can reach that goal. I can accomplish this thing. I can do that. But character-driven cultures, and not to be overly religious, but they're more faith-based. They have a trust in their performance. They have a trust in their plan. They've planned it. They worked it. They understand their strengths and weaknesses. They know what they have to do. And again, they're more faith-based like that. Where crisis-driven cultures that have to perform, they're about surviving. Surviving. Cause-driven cultures are about arriving. They want to get somewhere. They want to be there. I want to arrive at this goal and this destination. Character-driven cultures are about the journey. It's literally about the journey, and it's not pie in the sky. It's not philosophical. It's literally recognizing that there's going to be some days when it's hot, some days when it's not. But at the long end of the day, at the end of the year, I have a 1099 coming. I don't get a paycheck this week. I don't live by this month. I live by a season and a career. And at the end of my career, guess what? I know, and even at the end of this year, that I'm going to have a great opportunity to be a great earner and do what I can do and accomplish the goals of my organization, my company, and my life because of the consistency of performing the way this plan leads me.
And I think when we're talking about this, because a small percentage of our field force is really has a nepotistic network. They've been kissed into it either by their relatives or maybe they come from a high affluent area. But the vast majority of our producers are just normal people, just regular people that have come into our business, love our business, by the way, and really want to help people. They have genuine hearts to assist people in their finances. But I also see us we're not character-based. We're not want to. Some of us have to. Some of us need to. I don't see the want to. Is that this vision thing I've heard you talk about before, this vision versus values, how does that play into all this?
Well, when you start to think about being character-driven, one of the things that plays in highly to that is in your driving forces is how you view where you're going. And as a nation, and I think we've been taught vision and goals as a way of life. My success manual has a lot to do with vision and goals. In fact, it even has a portable vision board inside it, and it also has a place to develop your goals and teaches you how to really do that and make goals work for you. Most of the time when I introduce goal training someplace, people just look at me and they go, oh no, here we go again, because it hasn't been successful for them. They're tired of talking about it. They've not been coached on it properly, or they haven't been coached on it in a way that works for them anyway. And so it's very challenging. But the fact of the matter is, visions alone will not accomplish a success performance development. It just won't do it. Very often, in fact, if you want to create a scenario for crisis and for failure, just make a change that's vision driven but doesn't have the support of great value change. Visions teaches you where to go, tells you where you want to go, but values creates the power to get there. And we're not really value driven, we're more vision driven. The trouble is vision oftentimes goes from one place to another, and we just exchange them with one failure after failure after failure happening. So I really support the whole idea of having a vision. Like you said, there's no proverb that without my vision my people perish, and that's a really true proverb. People cast off restraints, they lose discipline, they just give up on life in general without a great vision. But vision, we're changing your vision and developing a vision without developing the values to go with it. Here's one for you, Steve.
Give me an example of that.
Let's suppose that I had a vision that this year I made $100,000 last year. I want to make $200,000 this year, and I have a vision of what I'm going to do with that, where the money's going to come from, how I'm going to do that.
Now, do we care why I want to make $200,000?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, that doesn't matter. All right.
At this point. But the values that drive that, the values are the structures of foundation that lets that vision have potential. Those beliefs, those structures in my life have to be there to support that vision. For example, if I think I'm going to increase my revenue by double, and I'm going to double, in essence, double my business, but I don't value cold calling, I don't value marketing, I don't value development, I don't value networking, I don't value interconnection with people, I don't value relationships. Guess what? I probably don't have the values to support the vision. Without good values, let me tell you something, performance has a lot to do with values. If you do the research today on values, companies that are value driven, go to the bookstore and start looking at the proliferation of books that are coming out and emerging on value driven companies. Go Google it, just start becoming educated. What we do know about values is that value driven organizations and people outperform anybody else significantly, I mean profoundly.
This is really counterintuitive over the last quarter of a century of sales that I've been in out of almost my 30 years, because everybody says you need to set at the target, the vision statement way up front. And I'm getting from you, actually, I need to set, do I even have the values to begin to have a vision, or is it so, do I have this corporate glaucoma, if I may say, where I have this, I'm looking for this vision and I didn't have the values all along. Maybe I need to reverse it. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing is that I'm not suggesting to anybody that values are not important. I mean, vision is not important. I think you need a vision. But I also think that you also have to have the values to support that. And I'm not teaching one over the other. I'm just adding to, not taking away. I'm telling you, I have seen vision trained into company after company, and the performance didn't change that much. Very marginal. It really teaches good. It gets everybody excited. We get goosebumps about it, and boy, does it really nurture the, I can do it, go there. But guess what? If I'm not really to address the values that need to change to support that vision, if I have a vision that I'm going to have a great relationship with my wife, but I don't like quiet time, I don't like talking, I don't like spending quality time listening to her, I probably don't value some things that's going to let that vision happen. I have a great vision, but my values aren't there. Now, can that change? Absolutely. I can choose my values, and you can too. That's the way the brain works. The human condition is we are very adaptable, we are very changeable, but if we believe a lie, if we believe something...
Even an old dog, can he learn new tricks?
Absolutely. The good thing is that most of the people in our industry are 45 and older. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, without question.
And not only are we changing, when we change, we can have our best days ahead of us. The thing that I'm aware of today is that this isn't just a young man's game, this performance reality. We're now off of experience. You never stop training, you never stop growing, and you never stop thinking the best is ahead of you.
I went over there to where my daughter works out, and she's a personal trainer, and I saw a gentleman there who looked past my age by a substantial amount. So I walked over, and I just had a little comment waiting for him, and I said, "How old are you, sir? I'm just curious, because I deal in all kinds of Methuselah marketing and mortality, and everybody that's heard me speak on all these things." And he says, "Well, I'm 71. I said, "You look in fabulous shape." He says, "I've been training." And I said, "How long?" He says, "All my life." I said, "Well, wait a minute now. So, well, I may not have I'm not benching 350, but he looked fabulous. And this was part of his culture. This was a value to him." I said, did you change your eating habits? "About 10 years ago, I changed that as well." "How did you do? How did you migrate to good eating habits. He went through his value. He valued it. And I could tell the way he spoke. It was part of his life, and I could look at his physical body. He looked great.
Yes. Now you just describe a character-driven person who has their values and vision. You know, the fact of the matter is, vision, if you will, sees, but value builds. Value builds. Vision sees, and value builds. And this is a real test. The question is, how do you know what your real values are? And I get a lot of representatives come up to me in the breaks at trainings and seminars and say, Rick, how do I know what my real values are? Well, here's a test for you. You write down what you believe to be your top 5 to 10 values, and then on the side of that, in a separate column, put a list the amount of time that you spend on that value. Parallel to that, put another column of the amount of money you spend on that value. Now, here's a real question. If you don't spend any time or any money, and by the way, time and money are only indicators, they're never an end, they're only a means to. If you don't have any money or any time devoted, any up to that value, probably it's not a real value. Because when you value something, there's going to be an investment towards that thing. Now, if it's not a value, it's probably a vision. You would like to be someone who eats healthy, or you would like to be someone who works out regularly.
That would be me.
You have a vision of that.
I
But
do.
you don't value it because you've never spent a dime or training. You've never gone out and bought anything organic. You again, the vision's there without the values. So guys, let me tell you something. Bringing a trainer in and getting your vision up is not enough. It starts there.
Wow.
But you need the values to go along with it.
Well, I'm having a personal confession live on our show that Steve must not value it since he's not willing to do it. But I have to change my values, and I do want to work out, and I do want to eat right. I want to have a good geriatric lifestyle. I've just talked myself into it, I think.
There you
Listen,
go.
I'm Steve Savant. You've been listening to the Business Insurance Zone. Well, that's the buzz on the biz for today. Get in the zone, the Business Insurance Zone.
This has been a Bravo video event of the National Insurance Clearinghouse and Brokers Alliance, one of the largest distributors of insurance products and services to a nationwide network of insurance professionals. You can contact Brokers Alliance at brokersalliance.com or 1-800-290-7226, extension 147.